The DCE universe is over. We can put it to rest. We can move on with James Gunn now because this is the last movie set in the DCEU. And man, oh man, it goes out on a huge whimper.
Here's Johnny.
My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates.
Expecto Patronum!
Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom stars Jason Momoa, Patrick Wilson, and Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, and follows Aquaman balance his duties as king and as a member of the Justice League, all while planning a wedding, while Black Manta is out on the hunt for Atlantean tech to help him rebuild his armor. From director James Wan, one of my favorite directors working today. I absolutely love his directing style, and most of his movies I really like. But I will say, like, Furious 7, the first Aquaman movies, are on my, like, lower tier of movies. I'm usually a fan of his horror movies. So with this movie, a sequel to Aquaman, which is a billion-dollar movie, might I add you, this movie is completely just falling flat before even initial release. I mean, like, first off, all of the reshoots. There's, like, 4 writers on IMDb credit, which one of them is Jason Momoa, and obviously all of the Amber Heard stuff going in this movie, which she is in this movie. I'm going to tell you that. She's not in it much, but she's in it. This movie just had everything going against it, so I really just went to this movie saying, entertain me, give me one last hurrah, and man, oh man, the DCU just... Like I said, put it to rest. It's time to move on. Now, I will start with the positives, and that is Jason Momoa. Listen, Jason Momoa was born to be Aquaman. I like his iteration of Aquaman. He's a cool dude. He's a surfer bro, and he's having fun in a lot of scenes. Even though there are scenes that definitely feel like CGI heavy, Jason Momoa is not really there. But hey, Jason Momoa is giving his all. And listen, Patrick Wilson, which I'm shocked, I forgot he was even in this movie, even though he's in the trailer. When he shows up, honestly, the movie adds energy because these two brothers, who obviously in the first movie were protagonists, antagonists, and in this movie have to work together to defeat Yahya. And listen, they work together really well, honestly. Like, their chemistry and their bromance, their brotherly love, which they hate each other, there's some good comedy, there's some good talking back and forth, and there's a good little drama in between them about how the kingdom of Atlantis is his, how Aquaman was supposed to be this, and obviously Patrick Wilson wanted it and trying to take in the first one. And I feel like they could have gone more into that, really more for the drama aspects, because the movie is trying to be serious in certain scenes, because very early on in the movie something happens to Aquaman and his family that's very much a personal thing that happens to Aquaman, and the movie's tone and shifts really don't balance what this movie overall is trying to doing. But when it's morally Patrick Wilson and Aquaman together fighting monsters and doing their thing, it's entertaining. It has that cheese factor like the first one, which I like the first one. I don't love it, but I enjoyed it and how funny it was, how out there it was, and also trying to be cool. This movie goes more on that goofy side, and it didn't really work with the serious tones that it was doing. But in the end, watching it in IMAX, watching it in this big color, big screen, it's cool to look at. I mean, there is good CGI, and then there are some bad. And James Wan has moments of his directing style shown, but more of this movie, it just collapses on itself. And I'm trying to be nice because it is the end of DCU, and like I said, this movie just had all the bad talk before the movie even came out. So I was giving it a chance, and I just walked out saying, this is a bad movie. It really is. I would honestly say Shazam! Fury of the Gods and The Flash and Blue Beetle were better than this movie, 100%, because the script is all over the place. Seriously, like I said, the comedy, when it's there, it kind of works. Sometimes the comedy doesn't work. The action scenes are fun and big, but they're completely CGI, and it just takes me out of it sometimes. And sometimes the CGI is horrible. Not as bad as babies from The Flash, but there is some bad CGI in this movie, without a doubt. And Yahya Abdul-Mateen, who I think is one of the best actors right now working. He is so talented and so good. This movie gives him really cheesy dialogue, which apparently comic book fans love because that's what Black Manta is in the comics. So I don't read the comics. But watching this movie, I just feel like what he does to Aquaman very on is very serious to him and his family. And then throughout the entire movie, when they're joking and such, I feel like that serious anger towards one another is nowhere to be seen. And they try doing that in this movie, but the tones don't clash together. I mean, they clash together horribly. This movie is just like, you can tell reshoots were happening in this movie. There are scenes that just feel like this was in this movie, this was in this movie, this was in that movie, and this was in the very last reshoot. Like, it is a mess of a movie. And for 2 hours, I sat there saying, what is actually important for this particular story? Because there's a lot going on, and it just never comes together in a cohesive way that this movie feels like a movie. And the biggest thing I can say about it, and I know everyone wants to hear about it, Amber Heard, listen, what she has done, that's another conversation. In this movie, her character needed to be important, but they had to cut a bunch of her out. And she's in the movie, but you can tell they were trying to cut her out. And that alone is a reason this movie is just so cluttered. There are so many stuff in this movie that's just like, cut, cut. Oh, this was supposed to be in this movie. Cut, cut. Narration, skim through this. How'd you get into this temple? We're here now. Action scene, big CGI. Oh, that CGI is really bad. Move on. That's this movie. It is a literal mess. And James Wan, I love you, my guy, but this is 100% your worst movie, and I blame the script a lot because there are some cool action scenes, there are some fun moments between Jason Momoa and Patrick Wilson, and there is fun to be had in those little moments, but nothing tells me that I could tell you to go see this movie in theaters. I'm going to give Aquaman The Lost Kingdom a D+. It is over, though. The DCEU is over. We can finally just take a moment and just reflect on what we have seen and move on. There are so much opportunities for this universe to become something serious. But honestly, James Gunn, it is all up to you, my guy, because man, this year for DCEU has been rough, if you ask me. Anyway, guys, enjoy this movie review. A lot more to come. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, everybody.